Bothra, and I will be taking you through this entire presentation, and this will be a fun ride for sure. So why I am here and why I'm talking about this topic. So a bit about me. I am currently working as a security engineer at Security Innovation, Bugcrowd Top 200 researcher, which has some interesting story that I'm going to share you, and Recon is something behind that. I'm a Cynagrat team member, author of 2 hacking books. Sometimes I do blog and speaking like today, and a lifelong learner for sure, like you all. You can get me on, contact me anytime on these social media handles. I will show the screen back once we are done with the presentation. Okay, so our agenda for today is we are first going to look at the Recon 101, that why we do Recon, how we do Recon, and when exactly we need the reconnaissance. Then we will look at the reconnaissance from the bug bounty hunters and the pen testers perspective. We will be talking about attack surfaces and attack vectors, how you determine the impact, or how you increase your targets whenever you are doing some bug bounty hunting or some red teaming process or pen testing. Then we will see that how Recon can help by mapping attack surface and attack vectors with the Recon. Then what we have before we start Recon process and what we get once we are done with our reconnaissance process. Then we will see that what tools we need to build our own Recon arsenal, and we will look at some of the interesting tools. There are a lot of tools available in the market, but I will be covering up only those tools that I use, and I will be taking you throughout my own Recon methodology that I use day by day. Then we will see that how we can now we have everything. We know why we do Recon, how we do Recon, how we map the Recon. We have the tools. Now we will weaponize our Recon game for finding the vulnerabilities for our own profit. Okay, we will automate the Recon so that we can sleep while hacking or hack while sleeping, and watch Netflix or whatever. So this is something very interesting and gonna be interesting, like looking at how you can create your own Recon workflow, how you can automate the reconnaissance, and some of the examples for the easy Recon wins, and how we do smart reconnaissance. So, okay, so before getting into Recon 101, I just like to tell you a small story why reconnaissance is important. Okay, so I started bug bounty into February 2020, and as like all the beginners, I started with picking up some random programs from Bugcrowd and started hunting on them. After 2 months of hard work, there was nothing, just a few accepted bugs and a lot of duplicates and rejected bugs. And this is something demotivating sometimes, and people at this stage start thinking, okay, we are not doing good, or people are making dollars out of it. What should we do? At this stage, I started emphasizing and building my own Recon strategies for that. And to the surprise, in the month of May itself, till the month of April, I was like at around 200 points on Bugcrowd, and by the end of May, I was like around 1150 points on Bugcrowd, and which is like which led me to top 200 hackers on Bugcrowd, and 90% of the bugs were because of reconnaissance itself. So reconnaissance is pretty important, and you should always give your this importance to Recon. Okay, so reconnaissance is basically a military term, which is like to know your enemy better. If I want to strike at someone, or I just want to do something or some attack, planning some attack, I first need to know that what my target has, what kind of the security mechanisms they are using, or every little detail helps me to plan my attack accordingly. So in terms of pen testing, or in terms of bug bounty hunting, or the application security, the reconnaissance talks about the same, knowing your target. Okay, once you know your target, the attacking becomes easy. You know that what kind of firewalls they are using, what kind of security mechanism, what kind of technologies they are using. So you can now sophisticate your attack surface accordingly. So why Recon is because Recon gives you more targets. It gives you a wide variety of attack surface, so that you can attack on a large number of targets. For example, you started with google.com, okay, and you did Recon, and now you have thousands of domains of google.com, okay. So now you started with a simple one major domain, a top level domain, google.com, and then you ended up into thousands of domains. So now the probability of finding security vulnerabilities is now 1:1,000, right? There, initially without Recon, you were going to find only one asset, vulnerabilities on one asset. Now you have thousands of targets, thousands of assets to hunt upon. And further, if you do Recon, you can increase this attack surface even more. Now, when the reconnaissance is important is the most valuable question over here. Reconnaissance is not something that you can use always. So for example, if you are an application security engineer and you are into a company and you are testing the applications for the clients, so most of the time you will find these are sandbox environment and having a very limited scope. At that time, recon is not that much useful, and subdomain enumeration is not a play of that time. And there are many of the techniques of recon which have to be discarded over this time. On the same point, if you are doing bug bounty hunting and you come across a company called, for say, google.com, and then you say that google.com has everything in scope, okay, now you can use your complete recon methodology over there. Then you come across some particular program which says that, okay, some particular assets are in scope. Then you have to again map your recon according to that. So doing full recon in both, like all of the three cases is not a good idea at all, because you have to be very much sure that what kind of things you want to use when you are doing the case A, when you are doing sandbox environment, the case B when everything, or case C when some particular assets in the scope. Okay. So how we do recon is very simple, which is something we are going to discuss about throughout this presentation. I assure you that there will be like a lot of new learnings, and there will be a lot of fun learning throughout this thing. So let's go ahead with this. Okay. So recon for pen testers and bug bounty hunters. So how recon is useful in a nutshell is, we can find hidden endpoints. Like there are sometimes some endpoints which are not sanitized properly and may give you some reflected accesses or some error-based SQL injection. So sometimes we miss out when we do normal assessment or manual assessment. Sometimes we miss out. But if we go and check recon, do recon on that, like we check some older way back URLs or some way back machine history, and we see, okay, there used to be a URL or some endpoint which used to take some user input. Okay, for example, some particular parameter, for say search parameter or some old search parameter. And by recon, if I can find this, and if that endpoint is still in existence, I can find the vulnerability over that. Then it increases your attack surface, just like I discussed already, that you can get a more number of subdomains, IP ranges, and everything. So it helps you to discover more assets and ultimately increases your attack surface. So there are many companies and many organizations which uses IoT devices, or some, you can say, like printers and some online services which are being exposed. You can use like some search engines like Shodan and FOFA-SO or Census to actually gather information about those IoT devices and services. Then you can use Google Docs to find exposed sensitive directories and some internal domains, source code, secrets over GitHub, which is, in boom these days. And we are going to talk about that as well, that how you can find some code leaks or some JavaScript files which leaks the Google API keys or some other secrets or passwords. Then ultimately, recon is going to give you more assets which lead to bigger attack surface. And once you have a bigger attack surface, there are chances of getting more and more vulnerabilities. Okay, so what are these assets that we are talking about so far? So before talking about the assets, let's just quickly understand the attack surface and attack vectors. So I will be calling attack surface as AS and attack vectors as AV throughout this complete presentation. Okay. So attack surface could be anything, any area or any endpoint from which an attacker can perform a potential vulnerability assessment. Okay, so there is something called CIA. For those who don't know, it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So whenever we talk about, okay, I found a cross-site scripting. Now, how I'm going to determine its impact depends upon the CIA factor. So how my access is impacting the confidentiality, like what kind of sensitive data I can access. Can I access the cookies or not? Integrity talks about, can I modify something, or like can I lure an admin user to perform some action and do something to the application and modify the application state. This talks about integrity. And then availability is something, can I do something like delete some services or cause a denial of service, or which ultimately lead the valid legitimate user to have the service inaccessible for a quiet time or for like permanent time, depends. Okay, so based on these three factors, we define the impact. And the attack surface is something that any place where attacker can go and try to hit the target. Okay, so when we talk about attack vectors, it's something like possible methods an attacker can use to impact the CIA. using the available attack surface. For example, I had an attack surface having a search parameter on a WordPress website. Okay, then I got to know that there is no WAF, or there is no security mechanism or any input filtration over there. Now that search bar is the attack surface, and my payload, for example, like XSS payload, simple script alert one, or image SRC payloads, I go and input my payload over there, and I am able to execute. I am able to perform a XSS, and this will be impacting CIA. Okay, this like reflect XSS for me, it would be a medium vulnerability, and rest can depend upon the target. That is it an authenticated action or an unauthenticated action? Okay, so why mapping attack surface is necessary? Most of the people don't do it. Okay, so what happens is whenever people do assessment or bug bounties, they start hitting the target. Okay, they saw a new program coming up, a private program coming up, or a company guy who just got an engagement having just 10 days, he will start attacking the application, which is, according to me, is a wrong thing. First and foremost thing, you should know your target. You should write down all the assets which are available to the application, which will help you to create a mind map of all the possible attack vectors and what kind of vulnerabilities you can test on a target. For example, you got a file upload feature. Okay, then you also got a feature where you can export and import some files and things like that. So now you know that you can check for some like code execution. You can check for some file types which are not acceptable, but you are trying to bypass unrestricted file uploads. You can check for some CSV injections if CSV type is accepted, and then you can check for stored accesses and there things like that. So like instead of blindly jumping into an application and start to hunting on that, it's a good idea to first map the attack surface, look at the endpoints, discover the application, so that you know that, okay, you can keep track of the things that what you want to test and what you don't want to test. Okay, organized approach, it will help you organize a huge scope target and you will not miss anything obvious. Okay, and whenever you're planning to revisit the application for testing for say like a week later or a 10-day later or like a year later, you will know that, okay, I have tested this, I have to test this thing now. It will allow you to craft your attack vectors accordingly, and it actually saves a lot of time. It saved me a lot of time because in the month of May, I did this thing. I used this methodology and it landed me like 1,000 points on Bugcrowd, which is something very huge for me because this led me to top 200 hackers on Bugcrowd. So yeah, this is interesting at itself. And it will obviously keep you one step up than your competition because most of the people are not doing this. We already talked about it. So if you are doing it right, you will be a step ahead of your competition. Okay, mapping attack surface and attack vectors with reconnaissance. So it is important for you to know that how reconnaissance can help you in this particular process. Okay, so remember we talked about some sandbox environment as a case 1, then like everything in scope as a case 2, and some limited scope as a case 3. Okay, so based on the scope is the first point. So my recon has to be modified each and every time based on the scope. If there is everything in the scope, I have to implement like more recon methodologies, like looking for the IPs, doing some DNS enumerations, doing some subdomain enumerations, subdomain takeovers, and other stuff. If I have just like limited scope, then there might be chances that I don't want to do subdomain scanning or some IP address scanning or some like Shodan scanning and things like that. And if I have like the sandbox environment, I might not want to do recon at all. So that depends. Secondly, based upon the internet presence, for example, how long your target has been alive on the internet is something which matters during the reconnaissance and helps you to create your attack surface. For example, google.com has been on the internet like for a long time, and there will be many assets. And sometimes what happens is the security team, they try to configure and secure all of their assets, but sometimes the old assets might go unnoticed, and you can find your those like misconfigured assets using your recon methodologies. So GitHub, search engines, and OSINT based attack vectors are high over this point of time. Now, based upon the asset type, okay, so asset type by I mean like, is it an e-commerce application? Is it some kind of healthcare application? Is it some kind of inventory applications? based on those, you can look for these particular things during your recon. For example, if this is an e-commerce application, you can go and check for the business logic vulnerabilities. You can map your functionalities, like, okay, there is a review functionality in the application. What if I put a review as a verified user, which is not allowed if I don't purchase the product? Okay, so this is kind of vulnerability which you can look while you are doing reconnaissance. You have to just keep your mind open for that. And based upon visual inspection, so visual inspection is nothing, just like you go, you explore the application for all the possible endpoints and attack surfaces, and you map out each and everything. Now you know that there are like 10 functionalities in application, for example, add users or add to cart and then add to a wish list. And now you know each and everything. Now what kind of attacks you can perform on add to cart or add to wish list? For example, looking at to someone's private cart, doing some CSRF, or if there is a feature called name a cart, you can probably look at doing accesses and things like that. You can try to manipulate the price parameters or delete the product or something like that. So these things will help you out to know your target better, and according to that, you will be able to map your surface accordingly with the recon. So these are some of the examples that you can look for. If the application is e-commerce, you are gonna go and list out, okay, there's a cart functionality, there's this, there's that. If it's a medical or like a Medicare functionality, then application, then what you can do is you can see, okay, there is something called give a prescription or schedule an appointment with the patient, or give some test like the lab test and things. So according to your assets, you can always write things down and see that what kind of attacks you want to perform on them. Okay, so before we do recon, usually we have these things: the target's name, the scope details, high level overview of the application, credential or the access to the application if it's like white box testing, and some information based upon the target that's on high level. Usually if you go on HackerOne or Bugcrowd, or your client is giving you some application, they usually provide you some basic idea of the application. So this is what we have before recon. And a few moments later, once we are done with our recon process, this is what we have: a list of all subdomains, live subdomains, interesting IPs and ports, sensitive data exposed on GitHub, hidden endpoints, juicy directories, secrets, hidden parameters, low-hanging vulnerabilities such as reflector access, open redirect, and SQLite. I am pretty much serious about that you can actually find these technical vulnerabilities with reconnaissance. Your scope, which was initially 1x, now it goes to 1000x, and the list goes on like this for a very long period of time. And you can actually, these are just a few things which recon can get you. And if you are like developing your own recon methodology, there is no limitation that what you can get from reconnaissance. Okay, so on this particular topic, we will be talking about building a recon arsenal, what tools I use for my day-to-day reconnaissance, and I will be taking you through some live demos so that that makes it more interesting for the presentation. Okay, so first comes the subdomain enumeration. I usually use Asset Finder and Subfinder, but these are the tools that I have in my arsenal, like Aquatone, then the Chaos. So this thing, chaos.projectdiscovery.io, is something newly released, and these people are literally scanning the whole internet, and they are doing really great. You can find like all the subdomains on their websites, and just you can simply download it and save a lot of time, processing time. Even Subfinder is developed by the Project Discovery itself, so it's really good tool. Then it comes Intel Gathering. So Intel Gathering, as in like what are the assets associated with the application or the domain. For example, the reverse quiz, which will tell me the more domains associated with the same domain owner. Then Shodan will again give me a list of some of the IPs and some of the public information. GitHub can also be used to enumerate subdomains and enumerate a lot of information, like expose secrets and search engine dorking. I specifically discarded the word Google dorking because there are other search engines like DuckDuckGo and Bing which can be used for the dorking purposes. So I will be first covering a few of tools from this. So yeah, let's just cover some demo part. Okay. So I hope you can see my Chrome screen. So first of the thing, the Chaos project. So this is the website. Simply you have to go there, and there you can see all the programs, like new programs, the program having the new subdomains, and then HackerOne, Bugcrowd, with rewards, no rewards, everything is there, and the number of programs. So for example, I want to see the domains for say Goldman Sachs. I just have to download this particular thing, and that's it. The domains are downloaded, and then all I need to do is just to extract it, go to Goldman Sachs, and if you see there, I have all the domains in scope and all their subdomains already scanned for me. So yeah, pretty cool. Again, this doesn't guarantee you to have all the subdomains. Okay, so you can always use some other tools or things that you want to use, but this is a quick way to get the things. Similarly, if we talk about Shodan, so Shodan, if you have a premium account or if you have a student account, you can actually apply for some of the specific keywords. Like for example, I want to search for organization for say, okay, Canva. So if this organization is having something live, okay, no results found for this one. So let's say StackPath. Okay, so now you see that we are getting some results, and it says that total 4,19,000 results, and it's not always true that this is related to our scope, okay, because StackPath is something which provides some services to their clients, so it might be the customer facing thing as well. So you might need to more again and again, like look for the scope specific things, but these are some of the basic things. Like you can say host name and simply go and type like stackpath.com over there again, and there we go. Okay. So then this thing is security trace. This again can be used for the domain enumeration, hostname enumeration, and one thing, it actually stores the historical data of a domain. So like for example, your domain initially was not hosted behind a firewall, and then all of a sudden you applied a firewall after 2 years, and if it has been recorded, you can actually get the real IP and bypass the firewall. So there is nothing mysterious in this particular one. Just simply go and write the domain name over here, stackpath.com. And this should give you all the subdomain details over this thing. Okay. Should give me all the subdomains. Just a second. Let's say Dell.com. Dell.com, and okay, I'm not sure why it's not showing all the subdomains right now, but usually it gives you each and every subdomain. So yeah, you can look out for it. Then the hostname thing, now the stackpath.com, we're specifically looking for this particular hostname in the Shodan, and the results has been narrowed down to 6 results. And similarly, like you can change the hostname to some other, like for say, Dell.com over here. And let it process, it's taking some time. Okay, we have now some services related to Dell.com, and there are 792 results for Dell.com, and these might be some unique subdomains or something unique which can give you then some good data or some good vulnerabilities. Like for example, there's SSH. We can filter out the results by SSH ports. We can try SSH user enumeration. We can try like trying for the password spraying and see if there is some the default or weak passwords are there on SSH implemented. So yeah, this is pretty much simple, and you can explore it further. Then we have the directory brute forcing and content discovery. Sometimes we see that domains are having 403 or some restriction like forbidden or like access not allowed. That time we can do the directory searching using some of the good tools like FUF, which is really fast, and dir search and some other tools. So what these tools usually do is they will take a list of word list of containing the different paths, different directories, different files, and they will hit your target and will give you the status code, like the directory is accessible or not. So it's always a good idea to run a directory search or any of these tools. You can use burp suite with the appropriate lists to see if there is something like which you can get. So recently, when my first P1 was because of directory searching, I got a directory which was hosting some internal domain, and then there was some other part of the vulnerability. But yeah, the initial step was to find that directory, which dir search helped me for that. Okay. Then for the subdomain takeovers, there is Aquatone's takeover module. Then you can use TakeoSubs and then Subjack. And if you want to check for manual reference, you can use add overflows. Can I take over XYZ? So we will be looking at some of these tools. I will be switching to my SSH in a couple of minutes so that I can show you all these tools into single go. So let's see first about this repo. So this is can I take over XYZ from add overflow. It lists almost each subdomain service provider and tells you if these are vulnerable or not, and you can accordingly check. So this is pretty much like a good reference if you want to check for manual subdomain takeovers. I highly recommend this particular thing. Okay, so let me switch over to my SSH, and yeah, there you go. Okay, so I will be first talking about some of the tools like AMAS, and see that how we can actually do some like intel gathering. So for example, AMAS has like a lot of modules. So yeah, you can just get a quick idea like intel, enumeration, visualization, tracking. So I will be using this intel module for this purpose. So what I'm gonna do is AMAS intel. Then I'm gonna say who is information I need, and then the domain, for example, specpath.com, and that's it. It is gonna take a few moments, and it is gonna give me all the reverse use information related to StackPath. Everything will be there. See all the subdomains. Now I can take these subdomains and I can check if they belong to StackPath actually or not, and I can further map my attack surface accordingly. So there are a lot of flags into AMAS for you to discover, which you can do. Before that, going further, so I will also be talking about subfinder right now. So I just need to give this command subfinder -d, and again your domain says stackpath.com, and it's really quick. It will give you all the domains. You can actually also use different flags if you want to do like silent and things like that. So there are a lot of, always use the help manual to see what is there inside the tool, and it will give you a pretty much good idea of what exactly you want to look. So, yeah. Then there is a tool called Asset Finder, which again simply same like Subfinder. It gives you subdomains, and it's also pretty fast. The tools like Aquatone is also good, but sometimes I find that Aquatone just freezes in between. So this is pretty much for the subdomain enumeration and intel gathering. Going further upon the directory searching, I will be talking about dir search. So I will be taking search from here itself, dir search, and then for say https://tech.com. That's it. And it will run, and by default I have set like around 200 to 300 threads. I will tell you by the end of the presentation that how we can simply use a single liner command instead of writing the whole command. I have written aliases for that purpose. We will discuss about that as well. So you see that this is quite fast because I have increased the number of threads. It's the percentage and everything. You can give your custom word list and you can check accordingly. So yeah. Then we will look at some of the GitHub enumeration tools. So let's jump into some GitHub enumeration tools. Okay. So I will be first of all doing a subdomain finding on a target, for example, say canva.com. Okay. And then I will be moving it through httpx-silent for finding some of the, like, resolving the domains to HTTP or HTTPS, and then I will be moving it to GitHound, which is a pretty good tool for GitHub enumeration. Yeah. So it will be now enumerating the subdomain first. Let's wait for a while it enumerates all the subdomains and resolve them. By the time it do that, we will move forward with our presentation. So not to waste our time much on that, I'll just quickly give it to my authentication code. And we are logged in, and it will do the process. By the time we will look at our presentation further. Okay, so parameter discovery is about like finding hidden parameters and finding the new parameters. There are two good tools that I use, Arjun and Param Spider. There's a burp extension called Param Miner, which you can also use, depends upon your preference. Then for the port scanning and vulnerable service identification, Nmap is best. Masscan is fast, and Nabu is kind of hybrid tool. I must say that this is newly launched by Project Discovery. This team is doing some crazy stuff these days. They are launching like great tools. You can go and check. I won't be diving deep into Nmap, Masscan part and this part because this takes a lot of time to scan the IPs. I will be showing you the GitHound secret finder for the GitHub Recon and leak finding. And there are the tools like JS Link Analyzer. The secret finder do the stuff for the same. So further, these are some of the really useful scripts that can be used to automate your recon, like HTTP probe, so that resolves your subdomains to HTTP and HTTPS thing. Then wayback URLs help you crawl things and gives you like a lot of interesting URLs which you can go and check for the vulnerabilities like XSS or open redirection or server-side request forgery. Nom's hack repository has like a lot of great tools, and it is like mostly used to automate a lot of one-liners and a lot of bash scripts. We will be talking about that in a couple of minutes. Then Gwen's pentest tools are also great, and HackLoop is also sharing some of the great tools. Then there is a tool called Delphox for automating the XSS vulnerability. Then this is a GF tool for grabbing, patterns. Like if I want to grab a pattern for SSRF or XSS, I can use GF. There are like a lot of patterns written for it. We will look at it. Then GAU is get all URLs. It works like wayback URL. Then S3 scanner and AWS bucket dumps are to enumerate the S3 buckets for possible takeovers or maybe open buckets or misconfigured buckets. These are some of the online services that I use: Shodan, Census, and FOFA and Binary. These are the kind of same services which look for the Internet as a Service devices and host names, like we looked at the Shodan. Then we have Google, Bing, and DuckDuckGo. We can do the search engine docking. GitHub and Bitbucket are like two major repositories, and GitLab also for like sharing the code online and publicly and between the dev teams. Okay, and building the CI/CD pipeline. So we can possibly get a lot of information from GitHub and Bitbucket. Then there are two like Hardenize, which gives you a basic information about the your normal the headers, like there are like security headers or DNS security is implemented or not. And then HTTP status is same as like HTTP probe or this HTTPX. It resolves your domain subdomains into and gives you status code. So if you want to use web-based interface, you can use HTTP status. Otherwise, HTTP probe or HTTPX are good tools. MX Toolbox is a simple network security tool, like network scanning toolkit. You can check for SPF records, you can check for pinging and things like that. Postbin is like canary tokens. You can actually check for, if you're trying for SSRF or trying to steal something using open redirect or doing XML RPC attacks or XSP attacks, you can use Postbin to as your server actually. Then this is really important, like Crunchbase, Euler, and Wikipedia. If you want to check for the acquisitions, so we will talk about this. We will see that how acquisitions are how acquisitions work and why we have to look at the acquisitions. Okay. So let's go and check our GitHub tool. So if you see that this way, it will highlight if we found any API key and any token. So right now it gives me an API key. I'm not sure which API key it is, but I can always go to this particular URL and check if this is some false positive or some valid API key. Okay, so this is how the GitHub work. GitHub is also a good tool, but I mostly use manual GitHub reconnaissance or GitHub for my GitHub purpose. Okay. So if I look at the thing, so this thing is done. Now we will be looking at some of the other tools, some of the other interesting tools. So let's pick up Secret Finder. So I quickly created a wrapper for Secret Finder. I will tell you that what I actually did and how I created. I called it give secrets, and all I need to do is just to give it a name of the service. For example, crazy.com. Okay. Now see, it's telling me possible credentials and everything. It scrapped the whole JavaScript files and gives me some good output. And there might be a lot of false positives because it works upon based on the keywords, and we should get something interesting out of that. Recently, I got a lot of Google API keys using this tool, so yeah, a pretty good tool to have in your arsenal. So if you see like some Amazon AWS URLs, from there you can check for some possible AWS takeovers, the Twilio account SIDs, Google CAPTCHA. I don't think so, which is important. So yeah, there are a lot of things which you can get out from this tool. I'm closing it for a while. It's going to take a lot of time. Okay. So I guess we covered this part. We covered this thing, and yeah, let's move to this other tools like what these things are, GF patterns and everything. So we will be, I will be taking you to my arsenal folder. Sorry for this type. Okay, so these are some of the tools which I like quickly created one-liners using some of the great resources from the Twitter and other people. So this thing, nuclear.sh is basically something I'm going to talk about in next 10 minutes, which is really cool stuff. Then the secret give secrets is something that I automated my secret finder to. So it first do find all the subdomains, resolves the subdomains, takes the argument and pass it to the I thing, and one by one, each and every resolved subdomain is passed to this secret finder, and it gives me some cool results. So this is how some of the one-liner works. Okay, so now we know that we have like a lot of tools in our arsenal. There are some of the tools which I haven't yet explored in practical with you guys, which I will be doing because there are some of the dependencies, so I will be covering them all together. So now we know that we have like everything, mostly all the tools for hitting our target. All we need to do is to look what tools we actually need for a particular target and start hitting our target. This is the simple strategy. Like weaponizing your Recon game is just all about choosing the right set of tools from your arsenal. Once you have that right set of tools, all you need to do is to start hitting your target. And Avengers assemble and let's hit the targets. So doing manual recon is okay, but not always, because we have to save our time for doing other things like looking for other vulnerabilities like IDOS and everything. And if we will do all of our time or give all of our time to reconnaissance, it's not going to make any sense. Like for example, if I am working full time into a company and then I'm doing bug bounty as a part time, this doesn't make any sense for me to invest my time totally into recon. So what if I can automate my recon process completely, and then just look at the output and then scrap the output to get some specific vulnerabilities. So this is the idea of automating the recon. And these are the 4 good tools that I always find helpful for automating the recon: Sudomi, Total Recon, and my favorites one are Osmodeus and Nuclei, which we are going to see in live demonstration. And big up to JCJ and Project Discovery for amazing tools. You guys are nailing it awesomely. Okay, so before we jump into those two tools, let's talk about how you can hack while sleeping or sleep while hacking. So there are 5 simple steps. Purchase a cloud and put a VM, like a Linux-based VM. You can use DigitalOcean, you can use GCP, you can use Microsoft Azure or AWS, whichever suits you. I am currently using Google Cloud because it's really good. And if you are using a simple Linux VM like Ubuntu or Debian, then you can simply install the Kali Linux repositories and update your system to have all the Kali Linux tools. It helps actually, because installing each and every tool one by one is sometimes doesn't make any sense. Now, all you need to do is to install all your automation tools such as Osmodeus and Nuclei and all the arsenal that we saw here previously. These tools. So just move all these tools to your cloud-based VM, enable SSH and start Recon on the screen. This is something we are going to see right now. Exit SSH and enjoy the Netflix and your life. Okay, so let's see all these things in action. So I'm going to switch again back to my terminal. Okay, so this is simply a SSH command I'm using as a root user. I will be connecting to root@IP and then providing the password. You can use the preferred method, which is using a certificate. I'm not doing that. I'm lazy for that. I'm turning into my bash. Now, see, what happens when we run Recon over SSH and when our terminal is idle for a time being, it goes something like this. Connection reset by this IP on port 22. What if I started reconnaissance over the night and I kept my laptop and my cloud on, and this happened? My resources are getting wasted. Okay, so what I can do is there is a very simple utility called screen, which keeps running these things into the background. You can reattach anytime. So I'm first gonna say screen -S for giving it a name. I'm gonna name it like jungle for this thing, for our presentation stuff, and that's it. Now we are into a new screen. Okay. Now let's see Osmodeus. So I'm gonna go and jump to my Osmodeus directory. I will be leaving the installation part to you guys. It's very simple and they have a detailed guide to install. All I need to do is to say osmodeus.py. I want to say what kind of modules are present. So let's see the modules in there. So they have subdomain scanning. It uses like a lot of tools to do subdomain scanning, port scanning, screenshots, vulnerability identification, GitHub scanning, work, directory busting. It uses FUF and IP discovery. So it also does like the coarse scanning and JS file analyzer and everything as well. So now I just want to do, for example, like I never do dirt with it because it takes a lot of time. And also I skip like sometimes this port scanning as well, depending upon the target. Okay, so quickly I'm giving it a command, osmodeus.py. Then I will say -n for defining the modules. I want to do subdomain scanning, and I want to do vulnerability scanning. I want to do Git scanning. I want to do IP discovery and support scanning. Okay, perfect. And then -T to give a list of all the the targets that I want to scan. So give the list like google.com or yahoo.com, facebook.com. Don't give it like www.google.com. Okay, so it otherwise will take www.google.com and start scanning the subdomain for www.google.com. Doesn't make any sense for us, right? So now I will be giving it like for say the file name inti, and that's it. So I have already scanned this thing like all the targets, so it will be just running like this. So it has like a web interface as well. So what I will be doing is I will be running a local port forwarding to connect my Osmodeus on my desktop. Okay, so this command, what it does is it forwards the local port 8000 of my target, like my VM, to my local port 8000. And all I need to do is I need to go and say this. and you can see that Osmodius UI is running. It might take a while because of the slow internet connection I'm having right now. Let it happen. So also it stores everything into this directory, root Osmodius and the workspace directory. And if I ls, there are like a lot of targets that I've scanned already. I will be just going to anything like random, for example, ac.com, and clearing this up. And there you can see that fingerprinting, IP scan, port scan. And if I go to subdomain part, ls and C. It scans using find domain, robuster, asset finder, subfinder, like almost pretty of all good tools it uses to scan these domains. And this final one is the combination of all the unique domains from all these files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cat it, and these are the subdomains that I want to see. Okay, so now this is accessing from the command line. What if I want to explore from the this web interface? This is a very beautiful web interface. It has a summary section, log, report. These are the important section that we need to look at. And I will be choosing any random subdomain. So see, this lists all the technologies, the open codes and everything. Now, what if I just want to see for the WordPress only? I can simply search for WordPress, right? And I can just simply open it, either clicking here, or like depends upon your preference. See, this is a WordPress. Now what I can check is if it has the XML RPC enabled. Okay, XML RPC might be possible, so I can check for that, and then I can simply check for accesses over this. Okay, so it doesn't result written anything, I guess. So I can simply give like ing src equals to x on alert equals to alert 1, and that's it. Nothing. Okay, I can leave it for later and test as well. I can go and check for WP-JSON file. Sometimes it gives you the user's information, a P4 bug, and yeah, it's a bug over there. Okay, so this way you can use the Osmodius for a quick purpose. Then if you go to logs and same idg.com, it is going to take a little bit to load it. Subdomain scanning, we have like different tools. Subdomain scanning, we can click on output and it will just give us if there is any output by that tool like this way. Then also we can check for the probed URLs. They are already resolved to the C names and everything. I can use this particular to get the HTTP and HTTPS URLs. I can then further check the fingerprinting information, git scanning, and things like that. Okay, if I go to reports at idg.com, I can get all these things. Also, it scanned for subdomain takeover for these particular targets. I have disabled few things, so you might not be able to see that. But yeah, if you enable like subdomain takeover scanning module, you can actually get information about subdomain takeovers as well. So this is a pretty much good tool and do all of things all in one. Okay, so by the time now, what if I, okay, it's okay that I ran something into screen command. What if my laptop went off, or there's any issue because of which my SSH connection disabled? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually close this SSH session. Okay, so it says that screen is terminating. Right now what it did is it terminated my screen. Okay, instead of closing the SSH session, I accidentally terminated my screen. Okay, so I'm going to say screen hyphen L, okay, screen hyphen R, and this says me all the available previous screens like that I have used. Okay, so if again I'm running a screen, I name the jungle. Again, I'm gonna go to tools, Osmodius. Again, I'm gonna run Osmodius with M flag and say subdomain GitHub and one only. Say the file as empty. Okay, my screen is now running and I closed it from here directly. I went back to my SSH terminal, logged into SSH, bash. Right now do screen -r, and I see my jungle is still there and deattached. All I need to do is I need to say screen -r and the name, and that's it. Wait, why it's not hyphen R? Okay, cool. And I got my thing back. So I actually use this tool to scan a lot of domains, and if you see, within like 3 to 4 days, it scanned me like around ls. Let's count 744 different targets. So this is a pretty good thing. I was sleeping, I was enjoying my weekends, and I had all these things with me. And thanks to the awesome tool, so that now I will be switching to the tool named Nuclei, which is recently launched by Project Discovery, and it works upon based on the vulnerability templates written by the team and some like good security people. So it like helps you identify a lot of things. So let's just look how Nuclei works. I will be saying subfinder, then I will be saying D, for example, cgate.com, and then say silent. Then say this one-liner is from their GitHub repo, and then the Nuclei, and the templates over here, root tools, and Nuclei -templates, and CVs I want to check for, and output it to something called test file. So it will be first resolving, like finding all the subdomains, then resolving them, and then passing it to the Nuclei. By the time it gets completed, I will be taking you through the last few slides so that we cover up everything up on time. Okay. So we will be talking about finding the vulnerabilities like reflect accesses, CV-based exploits using the Nuclei tool just in a second. The tool is running in the backend, and I will, before closing this presentation up, I will tell you that how the tool can be used to find these vulnerabilities. Remember, automation never guarantees you to find a vulnerability for sure, and it also can give you false positives. It is just to add your pen testing and not to miss something very obvious. Okay, so writing your one-liners is something that you can always quick up the process. So, for example, if you see that I wrote this whole command like subfinder dcgate.com silent and blah blah blah, and I don't want to do this each and every time. Do you want to do this? I actually don't want to do this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna simply create a one-liner bash profile for it, which is this. Let me show you. Okay, so again, okay. So see, simply give a bin bash and then finder -d $1 silent httpx and $2. So what this one-liner will do is it will take two command line arguments. The $1 will be containing the domain name, and $2 will be containing the output file name. All I need to do is to say nuclear.sh and say, for example, crazy.com and output Z. That's it. And same tool is now running, and I don't need to do anything again and again. Again, there is some catch that again I have to always go to the arsenal directory and say /nuclear.sh. What if I don't want to do that as well? So what I will be doing is I will be going to my root bash bash rc file, and we'll be creating an alias for that. So alias is something that you can call upon anywhere and just you define a path. So the nuclear is our nuclear.sh alias. I defined the path like root arsenal and nuclear.sh, and saved it. And now I say source dash.src, and there we go. here, and all I need to say is like crazy.com and say output. Okay, the same tool is again running now. And this makes the whole process a lot of simple and easier. So like if you see my bash profile, almost every tool that I use is currently into the bash profile. Okay, so if you see this one, I have like created alias for almost everything obvious that I need, so that I need not to go and again and again go and use some particular specific directories and save a lot of time for me. Okay, so this way you can always create your own one-liners. And so creating a one-liner is very simple and fair process. All you need to do is to know some basic command line utilities and your tools like Nuclei or HTTPX. I will be showing you one more example of this one-liner. So I wrote this one-liner and posted on Twitter as well. What it do is it takes a file of subdomains. It follows redirects using HTTPX, resolves the status code, looks for virtual host with a thread of 100. Then it short all the unique entries and grab the entries with the 200 status code, and then it cut down from this bracket and again short things uniquely and gives me the results and to the output file. Okay, so this is fairly simple, and how it works is pretty much simple. So I create a alias for it called resolver. I can run it from anywhere. All I need to do is to give it a file name. So I will be going to my OS medias, workspaces, and then say like I'd like to name lacy.com and subdomains and final.txt, and I want to say output, and there we go. It will also show me all the results on the terminal, as well as it will write it out with the output file. So it gives a few seconds for it to do that. Now, also the Nuclei thing, it is looking for each and every CV one by one. It might take a lot of time doing that because it looks for each and every subdomain. I recently found a lot of accesses last day and day before that while using the Nuclei tool. So I will be showing you how the output will look like. Then the file is cat c.txt. Okay, so this is some scans from the Nuclei, and if I go and see that it detects for Jira, it detects for WordPress, everything, and these are the results of the tool. So I want to see if anything is vulnerable. So see, it tells me that XML RPC file are available onto this endpoint. It saves a lot of time for me to go and check things manually. And there should be one CV based vulnerability, right? Somewhere. Somewhere was there. Give me one sec. Yep. So see, CV 2018 2024, and this is a target with the access payload. And what if I go and write it down over here? And to my surprise, I should get an access popped up. Yep, cool. So an access in 2 seconds, 2 minutes. All I was doing was sleeping last night, and I got this access in the morning. All I need to do is go and check my logs for this particular tool and report it to the client. That's it, right? So this is a fairly simple process when it comes to the Recon part. You can always automate the things on the go. So I will be moving ahead because we are almost out of the time. Recon Hacks 101 says that automate as much as you can, but never ignore looking for manually if you got the time, because automation tools may like miss something and may produce a lot of false positives. Learn using Linux utilities and scrap useful information out of the target data gathered, like cut command, SED or AWT command. Modify your recon methodology according to your target and do a target specific recon for better and efficient results. Do not just limit yourself to see or what you read. Recon is all about being creative. You can always find and apply the out-of-box thinking and your own logics, and it never fails. And write your own simple bash wrappers and one-liners to automate the process of your daily reconnaissance. Create and purchase a cloud VM, and it will be really helpful, and you will thank me later for that and telling me that part. keep researching on new tools, test them on known vulnerable websites, like that the website is vulnerable to XSS and there is a new access tool. Look for the tool's efficiency and see if they fit to your workflow and they fit to your arsenal, and if you can integrate them to your scripts, wrappers, or one-liners, or whatever you call them. So these are the quick Recon 101 hacks, and some easy recon always wins. And a special shout out to all the tools and resource creator. I am sincerely apologizing if I missed anyone. Every single person is appreciated for their contribution, and these guys are really awesome. Question and answers are really welcome. I guess we are already out of the time, so I will be available on the Discord server. You can ping me on Twitter and LinkedIn, or mail me out for any questions that you have. I will try to answer them at earliest. Happy hacking, hackers, and thank you so much. And with this, thank you again, Texas Cyber and DEFCON Red Team Village, for providing this great opportunity to present my thoughts, and looking forward for further more opportunities and talking with you guys. Thanks, Omar, and thanks, Joseph.